if you want to grow as a brand aggressively, you want them to be your customers. Whether or not they are, you're always asking yourselves, how do I expand my customer base?
Welcome back to Bitesized. Super excited today. I've got Will Nitze on. He is founder and CEO of IQ Bar. Will, great to have you on. Really excited to chat today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So for anyone who doesn't know you or IQ Bar, just give us a brief intro into you, the brand, what the brand is all about.
Sure. Yeah. I live in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm 32. I'm married. I like chess. I like soccer. And so I started IQ Bar. Well, so I graduated college in 2014. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I took a job in software just sort of by default and didn't really love software, or I was selling to oil and gas companies. So I didn't really love the oil and gas industry either. Got super into nutrition. This was like 2015, 2016, and always wanted to start my own thing and was always entrepreneurial. But yeah, I got personally into nutrition and then became obsessed with this idea of brain food, which tied back in my fascination with the brain I developed in college, studied psychology and neuroscience, among other things. So yeah, got obsessed with this idea of brain food and thought that why can't I create this? So that was how IQ Bar was born. I literally, the KitchenAid in my kitchen just started making samples at nights and on weekends and figuring out how to formulate products, and completely self-taught, like no background in it or know anyone with a background in it, and just sort of, put one foot in front of the other.
So was that out of a desire because you wanted to improve your own cognitive function and kind of mental kind of stamina? Is that how it kind of came about?
That was the original thought. So I got into biohacking, quote unquote, like not ever seriously, but I was interested in the concept, and I consumed a lot of stuff by Dave Asprey, if you know who he is, the Bulletproof Coffee guy, and read a book called Grain Brain that really like changed the way I thought about nutrition as it relates to the brain. And I was never like super hardcore into it, but I was interested in it, and I would read Reddit threads about modafinil and girafenil, and like smart drugs and things like that. So yeah, I was definitely interested in it.
Other important question that came out of your intro: what soccer team do you support?
I'm like a fake soccer fan. Like I watch Premier League. So one of my buddies from college, who I was in roommates with out of college, was a huge Liverpool fan. So I'll go with Liverpool.
Okay. I'm a diehard Man United fan, so we should just end this podcast right now.
Well, our other roommate, there's three of us, was a diehard Man U fan. So I don't know. Liverpool just seems more contrarian.
Yeah.
And he's too easy of an answer.
That's true. Although we had some barren years, but we're the 7-0 thrashing of us the other week must have made you happy. I was actually at a live event with a bunch of Man United fans watching it and left it 4-0, I think it was. I couldn't face it anymore.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
I know, it wasn't great. So the original motivation for the brand, as you mentioned, it was just kind of you researching this. It was for personal. How long has the brand been going?
Yeah, so we started with Kickstarter in 2018, January of 2018, and then we delivered our first unit, like our first order from that in mid 2018. So coming up on 5 years.
Okay. And how much has the mission changed, and what's the end goal for the brand?
Well, the end goal is to sell the company. When that happens, how that happens, if that happens, I don't know. Maybe we crash and burn tomorrow. We'll see. But that's the goal. Build up a really big business, sell it to millions and millions of people. Not build a household name, but have a large group of loyal fans, and then sell the business. And how's the mission change? I mean, the mission, first of all, mission is something that you kind of reevaluate every year or every, maybe even 6 months. And you're like, and there's so many sub components of it. It's like, why are we doing what we're doing? What are we telling people the point of the brand is? How are we advertising what we're doing? But on a high level, basically, we're trying to displace unhealthy snacks with healthy, functional snacks. The functional piece is really important. Like, yeah, you can have like a Kind bar, let's say, that's just a lot healthier than, let's say, a Snickers bar, but it's not really functional. There's, it's healthier, but not functional. We want to be healthier and have functional components to our bars. And then we also came up with hydration stick packs. And then we're also looking at the coffee category.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I've done some work with like a functional coffee brand, and people who are looking to, optimize their lives, optimize performance. I think there's a really big kind of need, because like you said, there's healthier than the worst option, but then there's functional to the point where it actually benefits, and there's a big difference right between those two things. So it sounds like, and from what I've seen of the brand, IQ is trying to be, it's not just healthier than the bad option, it's actually beneficial in these other areas when it comes to cognitive and energy and other things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Although I will say, like, avoiding bad stuff is a huge first step. Like, just like if you look at diets like the keto diet or paleo diet, a lot of it's what are you avoiding? You're avoiding high carb stuff, bread, pasta, rice, etc. And just that step is huge, right? You lose weight, your brain works better. You're not spiking your blood sugar and insulin production and crashing at 230. So that is massive. And so for like for the average person, that'll take you really far. But yeah, we go that extra step of like, by the way, hey, magnesium and omega-3s and all these other things can really optimize you.
So Will, I first heard of, or kind of came across you through LinkedIn, and you're pretty active on LinkedIn. I particularly like the morning shower thought posts that you post out. I mean, these are some long showers. There's a lot of thoughts in there. Maybe it's a shower and a cold plunge. I'm not too sure, but you seem to be, it's quite popular these days for brands building in public. Is that a conscious choice? Has it been beneficial? Do you just enjoy doing it? Has it benefited you, or what's been the impact on the brand or you as an entrepreneur of kind of that building in public approach?
It's kind of interesting because so let's say you're a B2B company and you're selling software or a tool or whatever to another business. For something like LinkedIn is like super useful, right? Because the people who are like the COO or CFO or head of supply chain or whoever your buyer is on there. And you don't need that to close that many of that type of person to generate a lot of revenue. And so it's a home run, slam dunk, like whatever the metaphor is, for B2B to be really active on a platform like LinkedIn and be putting out good thought leadership stuff and generating a lot of eyeballs. It's very different for B2C, for a consumer brand, right? Because, any given person, let's say I get to a decision maker meeting a consumer, what's the most you can, like, they buy a sampler pack or whatever. And it's like, and also people, it's a business platform, right? They're not there to be sold consumer products to. Like, maybe they go to Instagram for that or whatever. So it was an open question of like, what is the point? What is the point of putting out content? And then also, what types of content do you want to put out? So it was honestly a question I didn't have an answer to really, but I knew I wanted to start with, how do I just generate a lot of impressions and engagement, and then see how I could like divert that, if at all, or utilize that or harness that. And I'm still in that like phase of like, how do you build up more and more and more? And so I'm not even really like, I don't have a really strict rubric where I'm like, I'm going to write about nutrition. I'm going to write about whatever, fill in the blank. I'll kind of just write about whatever the hell I want to write about. And hence the morning shower thoughts, because I'm kind of just trying to generate trust and engagement and impressions. And then once I hit some sort of critical mass, it's like, okay, now all these people trust me, or at least think what I have to say is halfway decent. Can I use that in some way? And so I'm still like ramping up to that. But there's so many cool things that happen. Like, tons of people have bought our products. I've got to meet so many cool people. People have helped me out. People are in stores and fix the facing on the shelf. Like, we got into a retailer because of it, because the category manager for our category is on LinkedIn. So cool stuff just kind of falls out of the sky. but it's not like obvious what the benefits are going to be when you start.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. To your point though, like extra attention on you as a founder and attention on the brand, it's going to lead to something, right? And actually, I kind of feel like, I mean, more and more brand owners are doing it. I think consumers like to know more about the brand and who's building the brand. To your point around trust, also for something that's a consumable, right? I look at the brands that I've worked with or we work with. There's that extra hump you have to go over if it's something you're going to put in your body, especially if you're saying it's going to help you in this capacity or could potentially help you in this capacity. If I'm consuming it and putting it into my body, I think there's an extra level of consideration at that point. So I think like everything you're doing and like that building of trust and everything is probably really important. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you can talk about this funnels into your kind of marketing, right? Like how do you convey trust of a product you're going to consume and taste and everything else in your marketing strategies?
Yeah, I mean, one obvious way is reviews, right? Just a lot of people saying, "Hey, I tried this and I liked it." That's like a standard, obvious way to generate trust. But all the same stuff, like you ever read Influence, the book Influence? Yeah, so it's like all those same principles apply, like authority. Like, do you trust this brand? Do you trust me? So appeals to authority, social proof. Are there a bunch of reviews? Like, oh, these people liked it. Like, word of mouth, right? People like it, tell their sister or mother or friend or whatever. So all those same principles apply, and we utilize all of them. But I would say like the most obvious one is reviews, especially for us, which is there's other stuff too, right? Like your packaging alone can convey a lot. Like you can tell like, oh, this is a legit brand, or this is like someone who threw this together in 10 minutes. How intentional is it? Consumers are getting smarter and smarter. So like the words you choose and like this, that, and like the way you depict the product, those are all like cues to the consumer who looks at hundreds or thousands of labels and brand aesthetics, right? So they may not even think they're a really smart consumer, but there's so much muscle memory built up that like you can convey a lot without saying anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been one of the biggest shifts that even I've noticed being in the marketing space for, well, a long time. I won't age myself too much, but since like 2003, 2004, consumers are smarter. There's more choices than ever. They see those choices more than ever. And they're also more aware that they're being marketed to, right? Especially through social. They're aware of what's an ad. Like the general consumer understands that they're being, if they see an influencer ad, they understand the mechanics of, oh, this is an influencer marketing post. So I also think, to your point, and I like your point around packaging, right? Like that is so important. And also when you think about things like customer loyalty and everything, like how you receive a product, especially if it's an online kind of delivery mechanism, to encourage that word of mouth, that digital word of mouth, it should feel like a bit of an experience. It should convey trust, and it should also be something that they want to post about, right? Or they want to share with their friends. Seems like you also think that through in terms of how you've structured packaging and everything else.
Yeah, and we're actually going through this big branding exercise as we speak, because we've never, like you asked earlier, how's the mission evolve? Your product and mission and team and experience and all that stuff evolves massively every year because you're moving so fast and you're testing so many data points and you're getting so much feedback and you're always like micro adjusting. So you look back and 12 months prior, you're like, whoa, everything is totally different. So like who we are and why we exist, even like we re-question that every year. And right now we're going through this whole thing where it's like, especially as we roll out new product lines, we're like, what is the brand? Right? IQ bar. Well, what if we have hydration and this and that? And is it like IQ mix by IQ bar? Or is it like, are we IQ co? And then under IQ co is these things. So it's like existential. Who are we? What's even our name? Like, and then what do we want consumers to think about us? Like one of the same things that make us good and different and attractive are also things that make our lives more challenging, meaning we have a bunch of value propositions. So like for our bars, let's say it's a protein bar. Okay, cool. But also like it's a plant protein bar. But also it's a low sugar plant protein bar. But also it's a low sugar plant protein bar with nutrients for your brain. But also it's blah, 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 blah. You can keep going. And so which of those things what's your hierarchy? What's your call out hierarchy? How do you distill those things really cleanly, clearly, concisely? Packaging, branding, advertising, website, homepage, etc. Because you could go 50 different ways. So, if you're a bag of chips and maybe you use coconut oil instead of, I don't know, canola oil, it's not that hard of a branding challenge. It's like, we're a cleaner chip. We use this oil. Like, got it. Done. Solved. For us, it's like way harder. So it's a never ending journey of, by the way, trends change, right? So like, I'll give you an example. Keto was massive, massive trend in the US, 7-year run. Like it was the trend. People thought, 1-2 years, ended up being like a 7-year massive trend. It's now tapering off and we benefited massively from it. But we're like, all right, we got to listen to what's happening in the marketplace. So maybe now it's like we're a low sugar brand and it's sugar. So you also have to think about who you are and how you're framing yourself based on external variables, externalities, how are consumer preferences, demands, predilections changing. So long-winded way of saying it's a never-ending journey.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I like that. It makes total sense as well. I was on another call with one of our team actually, and he's worked with many brands in different stages of their scale. And what you were saying kind of made me think about this. It's paying attention to consumer shifts and market shifts. But his number one piece of advice for brands as they're kind of scaling and everything is listening to your customers. What are they paying attention to? How do you do that? What are you using for that? Is it like just through post-purchase surveys? How else are you kind of gathering that feedback? Whether it's now or when you were in maybe your earlier stages of the brand growth, how are you kind of eliciting and then using that customer feedback to help the brand kind of, understand what people did care about?
Post-purchase survey, for sure. That's one. That's a big one. Like, I don't think there's any substitute for talking to customers. One, probably the most useful exercise I've ever done is what's called a roadshow at Costco. So Costco's Los Angeles region. You ever been to a Costco?
Yeah, I live in LA.
Oh, nice. All right. So you've been to a Costco probably in LA.
Yeah,
So,
I have.
okay, we did a roadshow at Costco in LA. We set up the whole booth. We had like 2 pallet spots and we must have, over 8 days, we must have talked to 10,000 people. And like constant stream of people. We started at 9 a.m. We finish at 8 p.m. 11-hour days, standing on your feet, no lunch break, talking to people, trying to sell them. And it was like the best customer. Now, you might say, well, not all those people are your customers. But if you want to grow as a brand aggressively, you want them to be your customers. So whether or not they are, you're always asking yourselves, how do I expand my customer base? So it's just a really good like reflection of like, what do people generally want? And so things like added sugar, right? We would test stuff verbally and get real-time feedback. So we'd be like, which is so cool because like it's so much better than digital feedback, because then you can ask a follow-on question. You could be like, oh, what do you mean by that? You know what I mean? So you could be like, so they'd come up and they'd be like, what's this all about? You don't even tell them. You just say 1 gram sugar, 12 grams plant protein. Stop. And they go, oh, 1 gram sugar in the whole bar? Yep, in the whole bar. And then they'd be like, well, okay, is it added though? And they would say stuff and you would have never thought of that. You're like, no, of course it's not added. But then it's like, you hear like that 30 times, you're like, oh, even though it's only 1 gram sugar, they still actually care if it's added. Which to us, intuitively, it's like, who cares if it's added? It's 1 gram of sugar. But to them, they care. So then the downstream effect is that actually affects your packaging. So now you have like a big ass 1 gram and then like in parentheses, like none added. And you wouldn't have put that there if you hadn't heard 30 people, 50 people say that. And then just like, okay, so like the brain thing, right? You can start and say, hey, this is like brain food. It's got omega-3s and this and that. That doesn't work. And so it's a classic case of like why you create something or what you want to market to people versus what actually works and what actually closes deals and sales and all that. And so what works better is like 1 gram sugar, 12 grams plant protein, and it's good for your brain. But if you like the order of operations matters. Let's say you started with, hey, this is brain food. And by the way, it's low sugar and this and that. Totally different sales prop, like totally different pitch. And the person's going to respond differently. So anyway, so of all the ways I've tested the market, tried to get feedback, that was the single best one I've ever experienced.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, that's really smart. Going into a slightly different angle here. So again, using my own experience, DTC kind of became a business model, right? In recent years, it was all in on just direct to consumer, cut out all these additional things. Like we don't have to think about retail. We don't have to think about this. It's all just DTC. And I think that the tides have shifted or are shifting back again, where brands are thinking, okay, it's not a business model, it's a channel. And I think especially in the world of, CPG, there's natural constraints when it comes to only thinking DTC as a business model. So for you, and just what's your take on that? How are IQ Bar approaching it? And also, like, how do you balance achieving growth across, I'm not so sure if you're on Amazon, I'm sure you have a Shopify, Amazon, potentially in retail stores. What's the priority? And how do you set yourselves up in terms of, maybe marketing activities that support overall brand growth, but then track that back from a measurement standpoint? Because I think that's where a lot of brands struggle. It's okay, we'll put our brand on Amazon, but it's going to cannibalize our DTC. Or we'll go into retail, but is our marketing efforts to support that, or is it to support our DTC efforts? How do you think about it, and what's worked for IQ Bar?
Our brand is this year will be like, call it half and half brick and mortar versus e-com. And of e-com, of that 50% of our total business, I think it'll be like 75% Amazon and 25% D2C. So D2C is big, multi-million-dollar business for us, but still quite small as a portion of the total business. I can only give like our experience. I think you're right. D2C is a channel. It's not. Well, I mean, it depends. It's all contextual. Like I was talking recently to these coffee companies, these like functional coffee companies. I mean, they're doing like $20 million a year, and it's all D2C. So it's like clearly it can be a full-on business model. If I think that works. Why? Because first of all, you're selling a drug. You're selling a literal drug in caffeine, which people like. They consume it daily. Consumption cycle is very quick, and it's very conducive to subscription. So for some things that are like check, great. Like D2C can be your entirety, can be your entire business model. Most things don't don't check all those boxes. Maybe they're not as ship friendly. Maybe they're really short shelf life. Maybe they're not subscription conducive. Maybe their, consumption cycles longer, whatever. And so for most people, I think you're right. It's a channel. I think it's like it is your billboard of your brand, right? Whenever someone hears about you, either they go to your Instagram or your website, most likely, and it can drive like good volume and all that. For us, Amazon has always been much bigger. And I think it's very context dependent. For bars, for example, like just to think about your own purchasing habits. You want to like throw a bunch of stuff together in a basket on Amazon, and like one of those, let's say, is protein bars. How many actual brands do you go to their literal website and like check out on their website? Like not many for most people. You buy it on Amazon. Or like differently for women, let's say for like fashion items, different. Like you want to buy Nike shoes, different. Jewelry, different. But most things are like, yeah, buy it on Amazon. So it's just more people are shopping. It's more aligned with their way of buying your thing, your category. So some people fight that, and they're like, no. There used to be this big debate. Don't do Amazon. You don't own the data. And Amazon's basically won that debate for most categories. So anyone who said that is now on Amazon. Who said they weren't going to be, when iOS 14.5 happened and all that, they're now on Amazon. I like literally all other than like, let's say these coffee companies. So I just think omnichannel is the answer. I think look at your category and where do people like, where's the demand? Follow the demand. So for bars and hydration, like Amazon is a massive focal point of demand. And then like, let's take hydration, right? Hydration stick packs. The grocery is not, you're not going to move a ton of volume through grocery for like powdered sachets hydration products. You can move a ton on Amazon. You can move a ton in club and, let's say Costco, but less so in grocery. Bars are different. You can move a ton in grocery, in club, in Amazon, but it's just the proportionality mix. So for me, it's always just follow the demand. What does the demand heat map look like? And map your go-to-market. I was going to say map your go-to-market to that, but you also don't even have to, right? Because all those things are where the most competition is happening. So you might say, this is what RX Bar did so brilliantly, right? They're like, I know where all the demand hotspots are for protein bars. I'm going to do none of them. And I'm going to sell at CrossFit gyms. That's all I'm going to do. Sell the CrossFit gyms. Why? Because that's my target demographic. The product resonates with them. And it's a cult-like following. And generally speaking, cult-like followings are the best business model. And it worked like flawless. I think their first $0 to $6 million in revenue was all through CrossFit. And then they started generating money through other. So it's not, there's many ways to skin the cat, but that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, makes sense. How do you, what's the marketing broad, like high level, right? So you got an omni-channel brand, right? You're in brick and mortar, like you said, Amazon's big. You've got your DTC presence. Do you separate marketing initiative to drive specific revenue in those individual channels? Is it more of a halo effect? We're just going to market the brand in general and kind of like analyze on the back end. How does it influence your marketing strategy?
Well, I mean, we do what everyone else does, which is like, Facebook and Instagram ads for our website, email marketing, SMS marketing. We have a couple like other ways of generating leads through partnerships, and we sponsor podcasts and some newsletters, and on Amazon we bid on keywords, and we have DSP ads and direct display ads, and so we do all of those things that most people do. We try to do them really, really well, but yeah, I mean, we're solving the halo. Like the halo effect is very real. Like we will acquire a customer through Facebook. They buy once, and then they buy their second through their 10th time on Amazon. And we lose tracking on that. Like that is happening to what extent we don't know. Or they buy on our website once, and then they buy at Sprouts, for that next 6 months. By the way, Jess on our team can speak way more intelligently on all this. She runs their whole digital business, but yeah, I mean, there is some like leakage from an attribution standpoint or halo effect or whatever you want to call it. And then with post-purchase surveys, like we'll learn it's bi-directional. So someone will shop, they'll find us at Sprouts, and then they'll buy us on our site, and vice versa. They'll find us on Facebook ad, go to our site, try us, and then find us at Sprouts. So it gets bi-directional, and it's like a flywheel. But so long as we get the sale, that's what's important. But our LTV will always be higher than what our attribution software says it is. We just know that.
I almost think like speaking to, other CPG brand founders, it's that complexity and potentially not having a complete, it's really easy to run an ad to a website. That's your only point of purchase. And it's even with all the issues of attribution, you can track that really easily, right? You spend this much, your revenue is this much, this is how many people are coming back to buy. This is how frequently they're coming back to buy. I almost feel like that complexity of when you do broaden into true omni-channel and potentially go retail and Amazon is almost, maybe this is too strong, but it puts people off because, well, how do you control that? How do you control the signals, and almost be okay with not, to your point, well, they might buy on Facebook, we might lose them, therefore we'll lose them in our tracking. But if they're buying in store, then that's actually really beneficial, not only for the revenue, but it's also increasing our sell-through rates in the store, which is good for repeat purchasing through those stores. You need some level of, and I won't push you on the details, because even I know at high level these days, but that's complex to track and build a broader business model around, right? Because it's not as one-to-one. So there's some hesitancy, I think, to maybe do that because you can't control it as much. Even though you're tapping into those points of demand, and it's probably going to help you scale the brand more, outside the brands, like you said, where you have that checkpoint of where DTC really makes sense for CPG. So, I don't know, maybe any advice around how to think through that for other brand owners who might be pushing the DTC, but thinking about broadening into Amazon or going into retail?
No, like I don't have any earth-shattering ideas on how best to. I'm certainly not an attribution expert, but what I would say is look at just your blended like metrics that matter. So gross margin, contribution margin, net margin as a total business. And what we've found generally, I think that again, this differs by category and average order value and all that, that brick and mortar can be really profitable and can subsidize your online business. Like you can have a huge online business and you want to keep growing it. And to do so, let's say you have to run it at like break even. And the beauty of brick and mortar is you can be like super profitable relative to e-commerce and basically subsidize e-commerce. And again, e-commerce, your stats are better. Like, don't think that because you're running that at break even, it's generating no value. No, like all those people are going to then see you in stores and that halo effect we talked. So you just want more like touch points with the consumer. Like you walk by a shelf in Sprouts, that's a Facebook ad. It's no different than a Facebook ad. It's an impression. So you just served an impression by being on that shelf to that consumer and you didn't pay for it. So you're just getting all these free impressions all day long. And then eventually someone buys it and you make a profit, right? So you acquired that customer for $0 and, maybe you did a promo and then it's like, okay, I acquired them for the cost of the promo, whatever. But let's say they just buy it, you acquired them for $0 and you made that margin and go do that a zillion more times. And that's a really profitable business. The unit economics are so different, but I just think, pre-iOS 14.5, back in like the glory days, you could just be super profitable, just D2C, run a whole business off of Facebook ads and call it a day. That is clearly not the case today. So I think the answer is omnichannel. People don't talk about brick and mortar. There's all these like, you go on Twitter and, LinkedIn or whatever, all anyone's ever talking about is D2C. And it's silly because you're missing just this massive chunks of a business that, by the way, will have a halo effect and flywheel effect on D2C.
I agree, especially in this vertical. I think there's probably a couple of reasons why. I think some of it is complexity. You like going back to my previous point, like if it's just DTC, we can even if we're clipping our wings of growth, we understand the measurement better than if we start doing that. I think there's that. But also, as digital marketers, I don't know what Twitter bubbles or anything you're in, but maybe some of the ones that I'm in. One of the challenges, and we work with CPG brands. I'm part of a CPG brand, Spudsy. One of the challenges is, you must know Ashley. Do you know Ashley? Yeah, she's a great friend of mine. You need smart people and aligned incentives to think, well, is digital working? If it's not driving that, it's not one-to-one, as such, but to the degree that it can be one-to-one, online ads, online sale, right? As a digital marketing team, there's a different methodology to justify and think through strategically how are our marketing efforts online supporting a brand that maybe most of those sales aren't happening on my Shopify store, but if it's helping Amazon, if it's helping people correlate the Facebook ad or whatever else it is with the packaging when they walk past it in the aisle of a grocery store, it's still having that impact. It's not to be too simple about it. It's just harder, right? It's harder to justify potentially how, especially in the earlier stages of a brand, right? So I think that's probably why it doesn't get talked about as much within some of those circles. Okay, TikTok. Everyone has to talk about TikTok these days. It's not new these days, right? But it's a channel that I think a lot of people have really dove into quite aggressively, you're seeing some brands say it's having a huge benefit on the brand. One thing I think it has done is really push the emphasis around things like UGC type content and UGC ads and everything else. How are you using the platform? Is it working? If so, what's working?
Again, this would be one where Jess on our team would have a better answer than I would. But we do it. We work with this agency who is pretty good, and they do a variety of like UGC stuff and original stuff. And look, I think we could be more successful on TikTok. It's not been a focal point for us, whereas I think for other brands maybe it has. We've taken a brand centric approach where I think a lot of brands have taken like a founder centric approach, or like a sort of like under the hood approach. Like Waterboy, that hydration brand, is very much like that. And I think that works really well. I think you have to like choose which channels you really want to go hard after. Candidly, we don't, I mean, it's not like if we invest X units of time, energy, money into, let's say, Amazon advertising versus, let's say, TikTok, whether it be content creation, curation, and or advertising, we've just found we get more money out of the former versus the latter. And I've talked to so many people about TikTok, about how, like, what's the actual purchase intent of people, whether or not you go viral, how much actual sales are you driving from that, and found it to be fairly underwhelming. Contextual, some brands clearly crush it, but many don't. So I don't know. Definitely not like a TikTok guru. We do it. We don't go as hard after it. Like there's a world in which all the stuff I do on LinkedIn, I could just do that on TikTok in a video form, and maybe that works really well. But it's just, I don't know how much actual customer affinity are you building? How much actual purchase intent is there? You'd probably know much better than I would.
I think it all comes down to what you were saying, right? Is when you're thinking about channel mix, test, but ultimately, what's the thing that's driving the most ROI? I think at certain levels of scale, you broaden your channel mix of testing, right? But if you're a brand and Amazon ads are working really well for me, like it probably doesn't harm to build up some level of organic presence on other channels. But it's like it's that not having the shiny object syndrome, where it's like, oh well, this brand is performing really well on TikTok, so let's go all in. I think it's knowing what works for the brand at the different stages of the brand as well, which changes significantly. If you're 0 to 1 million, what you might need to be doing and focusing on versus if you're 50 million plus is probably vastly different.
Well, that's the thing. Like you can get to 20 million with one channel, like just Instagram or just TikTok or just Amazon. That so I think a lot, yeah, tests, but like if something's working meaningfully better, double, triple, and quadruple down on that until you hit a ceiling. Yeah, I agree with that.
Agreed. Awesome. Will, we're coming up on time. Great conversation. I feel like there's so much I could learn and people could learn from you. You obviously live and breathe this and are super smart. We'll end it on, what are you most excited about for the brand this year?
Product development. Like I said, we're looking at launching a coffee product. So that'll be cool, and that'll like round out with 3 product lines. And I'm really excited about this branding project. On the sales side, most of what I'm excited about is brick and mortar. We're rolling out in Costco LA. We're rolling out hoping to roll out in a couple other Costco regions. We're in the middle of a Sam's Club buy, trying to get BJ's just rolled out in HEB, trying to get a Publix. Like there's a lot of momentum and stuff in the hopper that we're trying to close. And then if we close, execute on. Trying to double the business, like 100% growth year over year is extremely tough, but is achievable, we think. I'm trying to not go insane. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Good, that's exciting stuff. Yeah, the latter one being the most important, right? Don't lose your mind whilst you're doing it.
Yeah, just get sleep. Don't drink too much booze. Exercise regularly. Don't do all the basics. And you're doing the crazy entrepreneurial lifestyle. The wheels are going to kind of come off at some point.
I know. I actually just got one of these Whoop bands.
Yeah.
It's judging me pretty hard right now on my sleep. Like I feel this accountability to my Whoop band when I wake up in the morning and I read how bad my sleep has been. I definitely need to get better at, because even when I think I'm getting X amounts of sleep, and it tells me, no, you woke up like 7 times during the nights, and you're not actually I think the other night I got 12 minutes of REM sleep. So yeah, I'm trying to hold myself more accountable and to living a more balanced life for sure.
It's in Boston. It's right down the road from us. It was started by a guy I went to college with. Yeah. It's so much like having so much data about yourself it's a funny like dynamic because it's like,
It is. Yeah.
what do you do? So you got a bad night's sleep. What do you do about that?
Well,
Like,
you know what? I was thinking that this morning. I was like, what? Okay. It says I'm waking up too often in the night. So I might I might fall asleep at this time, wake up at this time. But through that, I'm waking up several times. I don't know what I do about it. Like take an Ambien or something. I'm not too sure. So the data's beneficial.
I guess you could like test a bunch of stuff and just look at the data.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you drink, whatever. You drink 5 beers and you're like, yeah, I could have guessed that my recovery score would suck. And it does.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's this other friend of mine was showing me this other thing called, I think it's called Zoe. It's like this thing that monitors like your blood sugar levels and all this sort of stuff, and it shows you these charts of how your body reacts to certain foods. That's really applicable because like you can tweak the foods you're ingesting, right, based on the
totally.
reading.
Different people digest like let's say rice, right? It's a carb heavy food. Different people will react wildly different to rice. Like some people it'll skyrocket their blood sugar. Some people light bump and you're back to normal. So yeah, I've always wanted to do that myself. Actually, the same thing for caffeine, right? There are fast digesters and slow digesters. So I guess 23andMe will tell you which one you are. Not that I want to give them my health information, but I've always wanted to do that too. Like I don't know what I am. Am I a speedy caffeine digester? And so it would be cool.
Yeah, lots of interesting stuff. Well, really appreciate it. If people want to find you and the brand, what's the best place to go to?
eatiqbar.com is our URL. At eatiqbar is our social handle on all the major platforms. Find me on LinkedIn. I post my random harebrained musings. Will Nitze, Nitze, and run Amazon. Find out stores around on our store locator, and yeah, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.